At dinner, Dad mentioned my apartment rent. When I said I live in my car, he choked on his food. The silence that followed was deafening. Mom dropped her fork, and it clattered against her plate. My younger brother stopped mid-bite, staring at me like I'd just confessed to murder. Dad was coughing, reaching for his water glass, his face turning red. "What do you mean you live in your car?" Mom finally whispered. I'd been dreading this moment for 8 months. Every family dinner, every phone call, I'd been carefully dodging questions about my living situation. When they asked about my place, I'd change the subject to work. When they wondered about my neighborhood, I'd talk about the weather. Tonight, Dad had caught me off guard by mentioning rent costs in the city, assuming I was struggling like any normal 25-year-old. The truth was more complicated than just being broke. I had a decent job at a tech startup, making $65,000 a year. My bank account wasn't empty. I could afford rent, could have gotten a studio apartment months ago. The problem was my credit score, completely destroyed by identity theft 2 years earlier. Someone had opened 17 credit cards in my name, maxed them all out, then disappeared, leaving me with $80,000 in debt I never created. Fighting identity theft is like trying to prove a negative. Every apartment application got rejected within hours. Landlords would smile during tours, then call later saying they'd gone with someone else. Property management companies wouldn't even return my calls once they ran my credit check. I'd filled out 93 rental applications in 4 months, getting rejected by everyone from luxury high-rises to basement apartments with no windows. My Honda became my bedroom by necessity, not choice. I'd invested in window tinting, a good sleeping bag, and a gym membership for showers. I rotated between different parking spots, 24-hour Walmarts, quiet residential streets, hotel parking lots where I could blend in. I kept business clothes in my gym locker, maintained my professional appearance, never let my coworkers know I was sleeping in the company parking garage. The irony was crushing. I was making more money than I'd ever earned, finally building a career in software development, but living like I was homeless because of crimes someone else committed. I'd spent thousands on lawyers, credit repair services, identity protection, money that could have gone toward deposits and rent. Every month I'd check my credit report hoping for improvement, only to find new fraudulent accounts appearing. Dad was still coughing, processing what I'd said. "But you have a job," he managed. "You're making good money. How are you living in your car?" I explained the identity theft, the credit destruction, the endless rental rejections. Mom's face cycled through confusion, anger, and heartbreak. "Why didn't you tell us? We could have helped. We could have co-signed a lease, lent you money for deposits." That's when the real shame hit. Pride had kept me silent. My parents had struggled their whole lives, finally reaching financial stability in their 50s. Dad had worked construction for 30 years to pay for our house. Mom had cleaned offices at night to afford our school supplies. The idea of asking them to risk their good credit for my problems felt selfish, especially when the situation was temporary and I was handling it. My brother, who'd been quietly listening, suddenly got animated. "Dude, you could have stayed in my apartment. I've got a couch, extra space. Why are you sleeping in parking lots when family is 20 minutes away?" The question hit harder than I expected. I'd been so focused on maintaining independence, proving I could handle adult problems alone, that I'd chosen car seats over asking for help. The conversation shifted when Mom asked about my daily routine. I described my morning gym visits, eating breakfast at coffee shops, working full days while keeping my situation secret, then finding safe places to sleep. Dad looked increasingly upset as I detailed the logistics of car living, where to park, how to stay warm, which gas stations had the cleanest bathrooms at 3 a.m. What surprised me was their anger wasn't directed at me. Dad was furious about the identity theft, demanding details about the investigation, frustrated that the system had failed to protect me. Mom was researching credit repair strategies on her phone during dinner. My brother was already pulling up apartment listings, offering to co-sign applications immediately. Within 2 hours, my family had transformed my 8-month nightmare into a solvable problem with multiple backup plans. Dad called his friend who worked at a credit union about special lending programs. Mom contacted a lawyer she knew about expediting identity theft cases. My brother cleared out his spare room that same night, insisting I move in immediately, while we figured out permanent housing.